welcome to the Signature Sip podcast, a real estate podcast with myself, John Steingraber, and my beautiful wife, 𝗍𝗂𝗆. Cheers to the beginning of Signature Sip. I feel like now we're back and we have a lot to give. We have a lot to offer.
Till this day, by the way, I have to say, the excitement happens the second I land the deal, not when I get paid. It's the art of the deal, landing that up.
Right, it's the chase. Not only are we going to be giving a lot of wisdom and knowledge and experiences and stories, but we're going to bring on guests.
I bartended, babe, so something that you and I have in common, even though...
Babe, you bartended for how long?
3 months.
A day or two?
It's a podcast.
So you were like eating a 𝗆 in Emily's bakery.
I think I was having a pastel de nata.
Okay, pastel de nata.
And a galon.
And if you're a realtor, if you're an investor, you're going to want to subscribe to this podcast.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Signature Sip. We have a very special guest today, Mr. Michael Gomes, COO of Signature Realty, devoted father, proud husband, great friend, and also a real estate investor. Tell us why you deserve to be here, Mike.
Just a guy from the block. Just a guy from the block. Oh, for those who don't know, that's the Tommy DeVito, New York Giants. Chief Operating Officer at Signature Realty. We've built the company up from 80-something agents to 400 plus. And I've also flipped in the last 3 years, somewhere between 60 to 70 properties.
Wow.
That's in the last 3 years.
3 years, you flipped that many properties?
Yeah, some I've hoteled, right? Not wholesaled. Some I've hoteled, some I've wholesaled, some I've rehabbed, some I've done out of levels.
Wow.
Right? And I'm also now lending money too, which I love it, actually. I actually like it more than flipping properties. I have close to $1 million right now lent out to 3 different people, and it's been fantastic. You know, so I think I'm going to dive more into that space as a real estate investor.
They haven't paid back the loans yet. He's like, it's fantastic. I'm earning money.
No, it's fantastic because from a risk standpoint, I'm in first position.
And work too.
Loan to value is very low.
Right.
You know, if
you're being very smart on who and what you lend on. Right.
They're signing deed and lose. If they don't perform, I'm taking the property, and it's an easier transition. But that's not what we're doing. I don't want to take anybody's property.
So if anybody wants a lender, you have Mike Gomes giving out money.
Yeah, I've lent out money to people in the industry. You'd be surprised how many people.
15%, 2 points.
Depends on that's a great question. Depends on the investor. If they have a lot of experience, I would do less. The lowest I've given out money was 9.5%.
Are we here marketing Michael Gomes hard money lender?
Yeah.
I mean,
and I've given as high as 16%.
What?
But anyway, yeah.
16%? Sign me up.
Yeah, 16%. I think as an investor, you should dabble pretty much in every space, right?
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
See which one you like.
Yeah, I agree. And really today's topic is real estate agent versus real estate investor.
Yeah,
real estate agent versus real estate investor. What's better?
Yeah, and that all came from a question. So let's hear the question.
Hi, John and Michelle. So my question is, real estate agent versus real estate investor, what's better?
What's better? That's a hard question because I mean, personally, I go back and forth, but I have built my wealth on being a real estate agent first and foremost. I remember back in the day when I was, when I first started real estate, someone once told me it's better to be a real estate broker than it is an investor because you have a lot less skin in the game and you're getting paid no matter what, whether that investor makes or doesn't make money, right? So less skin in the game. But then I know that with the right investments, you can make a significant amount of money as well. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm the best person to answer that question. I'm going to go to you guys because you guys are doing both.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to change it up. I think what's best is to be both versus not being both. That's my opinion, in the sense that a lot of investors say don't go get your license. I'm on the opposite side. I think you should get your license, because when you are in front of a seller and you're doing the right thing and you're being ethical, right? And the reality of it that this person would benefit a lot more, because there's some people that really need the money, they would benefit a lot more, and it would go a longer way if you put it on the market and they were able to net an extra $60,000, $70,000. That extra $60,000, $70,000 for some people means a lot, right?
Yeah,
it means a lot.
It's circumstantial.
Yeah, it's very circumstantial. So I think that by wearing both hats, you're able to give more options. And the way I look at it is like this: it's two streams of income coming in versus just one. Now if you ask me which one are you more passionate about, that's a separate question, right? That depends on the actual individual. And I think that's driven by money. Some people make a lot more money as a real estate agent than they do as an investor. So if you probably ask them that question, they're going to say, well, again, circumstantial. They're going to say being a real estate agent. Some people make more money as an investor versus being a real estate agent. So their answer may be being an investor. Which one do I think is more fun? I think being an investor is a lot more fun, right? But it's also a lot more riskier. It is capital intense for most cases. It is riskier, and you're not going to win in every situation. All of us here who have invested can tell you of a certain situation where we've lost money. I know you have, I have as well. So it is risky. And being a real estate agent, it's much easier to mitigate your risks.
Right.
Think about it, right? So what's your risk when you're listing a property? You're spending money on marketing,
That's about
but it's not the same as putting down payment, $30, $40, $50, $100,000 when you're purchasing an investment property. Then you have to obviously manage the project, right? If you're managing it on your own, if you're not, then you're hiring a GC and you still have to manage that.
And stress.
Yeah.
A lot of stress.
Yeah, there is that too.
Right?
There's the
Market
pressure to
shifts and
perform.
everything else.
Yeah. So they both have risks, but one is a lot higher than the other. I think that being both is probably the best. Claudia is both, right? That was Claudia, and she's done very well as being both. I am both as well. I've done extremely well as being both as well by giving sellers the option. Well, I think you should do this, right? And some people say, well, I don't want to, right? But that's their decision. I want you to buy it because I need to stay here for another 4 or 5 months, and a buyer may not be willing to wait. I have all this stuff that I'm going to just leave behind, and I could be an extra $10,000, $15,000 just to dispose of it. Or the house is really problematic. There's a lot of issues with it, and they don't want the retail consumer to inherit that problem. They want someone else that's going to fix it up, put it back on a market where it has no issues. So, I mean, that's my take on it.
So you're both.
I am both. I think I love wearing both hats. I really do.
Right.
So, I have a few comments about it. So, when you're an investor, we're talking about being a flipper, right? Buying a house, fixing it up, selling it, right? Because some people are like, well, you can be an investor if you buy and hold.
That's right.
Right? So I think in the context for the topic and the question, I think Claudia is kind of specifically talking about what's better, fixing and flipping and going that route or being a real estate agent. And I think it has a lot to do with your own risk tolerance, like you guys are talking about. And I also think it has to do with cash flow and your personal circumstances. I think it's very difficult to buy a house, fix it up, and sell it if you don't have good credit, you don't have a steady income to pay your bills, and you don't have, some cash for the down payment, closing costs, and, the reno, right? Because you are going to need a significant amount of capital. I think as a real estate agent, it's easier to build a cash flow through transactions and maintain your monthly lifestyle. As an investor, a lot of times you're flipping these properties and you might not get paid for 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months.
Or longer.
Right? So if you're the type of person that has, a couple $100,000, you can use $150,000 for your business, $50,000 for your bills, and you want to jump in full time into flipping. Okay, that makes sense, right? Because you could flip 3-4 houses a year, and every time they close, you have the money that you're closing, and then you could eventually build it into a business. Yeah. But it's interesting because I always thought being an investor was financially just a way better thing. And then I met Michelle. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, this girl's doing, all these transactions. And, does she invest in her business? Absolutely, right? Mm-hmm. It's not like there is no capital investment into building a business like Michelle's. And when I mean a business like Michelle's, I'm not talking about Signature Realty and J. I'm talking about 𝗍𝘆esse Group, right? Like her production. And, you're earning 7 figures as a real estate agent and a team leader. And as an investor, you need to flip at least 20 properties a year. So you're talking, and I remember when I had the most amount of properties I've ever had was like 26 properties. I had a $65,000 a month overhead. $65,000 a month overhead. Because the chokehold on
God bless you.
Owning real estate is what? The monthly overhead. Yeah. And depending on how you finance it, a lot of times, regardless, you have taxes, insurance, maintenance, utilities, landscaping, snow removal, if you're in like a place like Jersey, et cetera. So that chokehold is not something that normal people are prepared for, right? And in real estate, obviously you would build your way up to that. I don't think what's better I think what's more likely. I think being a realtor to consistently make a multi-6-figure or 7-figure business is more reasonable for 2 reasons. Number one, you build a brand, right, as a realtor, right? You get a lot of referrals. Just because I've maybe had one person that I've bought their house from them and then they recommended me to somebody else. Why? Because there's just not that many people that fall into the circumstance of me buying their house for cash rather than putting it on the MLS and listing it. But there's a 4% turnover rate as in the real estate business, in the sense that 4% of homeowners sell their home every year. In any given market, 4% of that population of households is going to sell their home. So that's 8%, right, of the households as far as transactions, because there's a buyer and there's seller. If there's 10,000 households, there's going to be 400 homes that sell in that area, which is going to equivalent to 800 transactions. Well, how many people are selling their house for cash to an investor where then on the back end they're making $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 profit? Not as many. Not even nearly as many.
So you're saying it's better to be a real estate broker?
What I'm saying is that what is more likely? I'm changing the question.
Yeah.
I'm changing the question because we're talking to everybody. We're talking to the masses. Now, if you have somebody that's going to hold your hand through the process and teach you how to run this business and do all that stuff, okay, you can do it, but I don't think that should be your only source of income unless you have a job. If you have a job and you want to flip 3, 4, 5 houses a year, and then eventually maybe like when you save up money and get into a better position, then you do it full time and start flipping 20, 30 homes, then great. I don't believe in the whole wholesaling thing. Why? Because I think it's way better to be a realtor, list the property and charge a commission. Because you get a longer contract, you get a longer time to do it. The wholesalers, I feel like a lot of times they're lying.
Yeah,
That's
I feel
how
like
I
it's
feel.
deceiving sometimes.
Yeah, because
You're
basically saying, oh, I'll make you an offer for $250 for your house. And then you get it under contract with these like crazy, lazy clauses on your end, right? That are all these exit clauses that if you don't end up assigning the contract to somebody else, those of you that don't know what wholesaling is, you just get a contract for sale with somebody, they agree to sell it to you, and then you have a clause in there that says, I'm allowed to assign my interest in this contract to somebody else without your consent.
Yeah, for a fee.
For a fee. So I can sell you the contract for $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. Rather than being honest, I don't think people are honest about that. I don't think people go, well, listen, I'm not going to be the buyer of your house. I'm going to flip this contract to somebody else. Do you care if I sell it to somebody else as long as you're getting the same amount? I don't think they do that. Should they? Yes, but I don't think most of them do that.
They don't have that conversation.
Right, so if you're just a realtor and you're like, hey, let me list your house. We're going to do all these things for marketing. We have professional photography, videography. Here's our database of buyers that we're going to do an open house. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And we're going to expose your property to the marketplace, and then we're going to negotiate your buyers. And these are all the services that we're going to provide for you. And for that, I charge a listing side of the commission, and then we offer out a buyer's side commission. That makes a lot more sense to me. And you don't need to learn how to do renovations and do construction management and deal with all that and somebody getting hurt on a property and all the liability. I think that it makes more sense to be now, you're a realtor and you come across a homeowner that goes, I don't want to deal with a realtor. I don't want to put my house on the market. I don't want to put for sale sign on my yard. I don't want anybody to get my photos on the internet. I don't want any of that. I just want somebody to buy my house. No problem. At that point, you could be like, listen, I buy 2, 3, 4 homes a year, and I'd be interested in buying it. Or if you're not an investor, bring it to Mike, bring it to me, bring it to one of your cash buyers, and sell it and make a commission off market as an office exclusive, right? So I just think it makes more sense to be an agent first, build a business with monthly income coming in, build that brand so you can live off referrals at a certain point, and you're not investing a ton of money in marketing. And then you have, your flip opportunities that come your way. And there's been times where the realtor has made more money than me on flips. I remember there was an agent.
He got very mad when I charged him a commission on a property.
No, that's not what I'm talking about. There was another agent that sold me a house, because you don't sell me any houses. Well, she doesn't, because it's kind of, it's like, oh, my husband, unless, I think there was one time she's like, oh, my husband, also flips houses. If you want, I can bring him in. But typically she has other people that'll pay more than me. So
correct.
She just sells it to them.
Yeah, but you don't usually, I dabble more in the higher end market too, and your average flip is not in the
No,
millions,
I know, but what I'm saying, I'm giving
you
an
are
example.
my ideal client, babe.
I'm giving an example of a person, right?
Yeah.
It was an agent. She sold me a house, and I let her, even though I'm a licensed agent, I don't take a commission on the buyer side, even though I'm buying it, because I think it's kind of a conflict.
Yeah.
I let them keep it, which is also beneficial to me. They're going to want to get my offer accepted, right? So now they're making all this money on it. So imagine you list a property as an exclusive because they don't want it on the internet. You're making whatever commission you negotiated, right? Somebody's buying the house for $400. Do the math on what the commission's going to be. And then I renovate the house and then I list it back with you. And now we're selling it for $650 after I'm done renovating it because I put $150,000 into it. And then you're making another commission. So add up all the commissions, right, that you made, and then let's compare that to my profit and the risk that I took and the opportunity cost on my money that if I didn't have it in this project, I put it somewhere else and made a rate of return on it. And then let's add up the difference. And I promise you, the difference isn't that big. Like sometimes the realtor makes more money. That's why some builders are like, oh, I don't want to list my house with a realtor. I'm going to list it myself because you're going to end up making more money than me.
Yeah, but it also depends on your passion and what you're good at. Some real estate agents should never be investors, and some investors shouldn't be real estate agents.
I agree with
right?
that.
So it depends on your passion. Not some people. I mean, to be a real estate agent, you have to have a lot of patience, and you have to be available pretty much any time. As an investor, if these are your properties, you call the shots. Right. You're not dealing with the consumer day in, day out, negotiating deals, being available left and right, taking the phone calls at 10 o'clock at night. I mean, you call your own shots. You're your own boss. So it's very different. I mean, I can see it both. I could see it both sides. And I also, what you just said, that, when you looked at Michelle, you're like, it's better to be a real estate agent. Yes, I, understand that I've also built up a very big brand. The average real estate agent does 2 to 3 transactions a year. Now, if you're an investor and you're doing 2 or 3 transactions a year, the right investment, you're making a lot more than a real estate agent. Yes or no?
100%, but it's a totally different commitment. It's a different capital, requirement. I mean, to be a realtor and do, let's be honest, I mean, our agents are doing really well. And if you do 12 transactions on average per year, and right now the average transaction is $12,500, that's, the cost to be a realtor versus the cost to be an investor is very different.
It's very
the
different.
So you can net.
Oh, of course.
You can easily net, after paying commissions to the brokerage, after all your MLS dues, your NAR dues, everything, $100,000 net with 10, 12 transactions as a realtor, right? As an investor, you're investing capital all year long. That's right. That money that you make, guess where that's going? Into the next deal. That's right. Into the next deal. There was a time that I was like, okay, wait, like I'm worth this money, but where is it? And I would go to my Excel sheet with all my properties, you remember, and then I'm like, it's all here. And I feel like I'm completely effing broke because I have no liquidity. And unless I stop flipping houses, I'm not gonna get that money. Yeah. Right? And then the market turns, and then you're effed.
You absorb it.
Yeah.
Right. And then,
it's riskier
and look, the margins in a real estate investing game, look, I'm just talking about Jersey because I don't know everywhere around the country.
I mean, you heard the conversation yesterday. I mean, you're going to talk about margins. I mean, that gentleman wasn't going to make any more than $35,000. Right?
No, and what was the total investment? I forget. What did you buy for?
He bought one property, for $260. He put in.
No. Talk about the second one. How much did he buy that for? $255.
No, that was $260.
Oh, that was $260. And then he put
$50,000 down payment, right? And now he's got to get a draw.
$60,000 renovation.
Yeah, exactly. He's saying it's 60. I think it's more, but he's going to have to spend at least $20,000 out of his pocket now. So now he's got $80,000 out until he gets the next draw.
But total investment on that project is going to be over $300,000. His profit's going to be $30,000. That's a 10% margin for error. So if the market changes by 5% and then you go over budget by a little bit, or anything changes, you messed up your ARV, you're done.
Yeah.
In a real estate agent transaction, you list $1 million house, you list an $800,000 house, and then you're walking away with $20,000, $30,000 in commissions after that. Now you're making an investment in that listing, right? With marketing, photography, videography.
It's not the same.
It's not.
And again, it goes down to I think the question really is, what do you like better?
Right.
What are you good at?
Right.
Some investors, they don't want to work on the weekends and the nights. I mean, as real estate agents, we work around the clock, 24/7. We can't take any breaks because if we don't pick up that phone, guess what? Someone else will. We always have to stay ahead of the curve.
It's very reactive.
Very reactive.
We don't have days off. We have moments off.
Yeah, and there are times throughout my career where I was like, I just want to be an investor, even though I'm not an investor. I don't flip houses, even though I do like the design. I design them. I help with the design, things like that. I've always been a producer, but there were times in my life where I was just like, damn, there has to be a better way. Maybe I'll just, start investing because I want to have more time with.
Well, you've always said you want to buy more investment multifamilies
Right.
and like buy and hold to just have money coming in.
Right. And then my mom and dad all of a sudden started buying all these properties, and I see
Multis.
what they're dealing with, and I'm like, no, thank you. It's all good.
Yeah.
I'm going to
Well,
invest
that's why you don't buy
right
and
back.
hold a lot.
I don't buy and hold because I
No.
don't have the patience. I probably would go to jail.
Well, I mean,
Give me my money.
no, I see it. I'm like, no, thank you. And they want to actually gift them to me. I was like, wait a minute, you want to gift me what? No, you just don't want to deal with it anymore. And this is your way of like saying, hey, you're my daughter, I love you. Here's a property, because you're just like, you're over it. It's a lot. And so the best investment that you can make is back into your business. So if you're a real estate broker out there, listen to me. The best investment you can make is invest back into your business and join our brokerage so you can get passive income while you sleep.
No, yeah. But she's right about that, right? Like some people are saving up, agents that are saving up money, and instead of taking that 50 grand and investing it, like we were talking about in yesterday's call, investing it back into their business and marketing to turn into 150, 200,000 in listings and stuff like that, what are they doing? They're buying an investment. And that there's nothing wrong with that. It's just also having the perspective of, okay, where should it go?
Yeah.
You know, and we're big believers in investing in real estate. That's why we own our own offices.
We own our
That's
own
why,
homes.
yeah, exactly. That's why.
But that's my biggest regret, by the way. Now that you're talking about it, if I look back, you know, the first couple of properties I bought at the age of 23, 24, 25, some I actually bought and held. I was better off just taking that money and just, you know, investing back in my loan officer business. I would have seen probably a higher rate of return, because if I kept any of those properties, which I had no choice, I had to obviously short sold them. You know, if you listen to the last podcast.
Well, this one's going out before the last one.
Gotcha. Well, if you listen to the next podcast.
There you go.
So if I had kept them, it would have taken me like almost 15 years for those properties to be worth what I purchased them for. And I wasn't cash flowing much. So had I invested that money into my business, I would have, number one, seen a return on my investment. Number two, I would have made a lot more money. And as a result, I could have probably bought bigger properties, right? If I just stayed patient, right?
And that's what we've been able to do. We've invested in some commercial properties that now, I mean, it's crazy. Your net worth can literally, you know, increase by a significant amount over a 15-year period. And they're commercial tenants. These commercial tenants are signing long-term leases. They have businesses.
Yeah.
They don't want to leave, right?
Right.
Some, like we have 2 tenants that just signed a lease recently. They're franchises, right? They have 10-year franchise contracts. You know, where are they going?
Nowhere.
Right? So, and that's, in my opinion, they're different to deal with than your residential, you know, person, right? And business owners, in my opinion, they're just more resourceful, right? Like,
true.
I remember having a tenant, and I've done a lot of multifamilies and like residential stuff. And I had a tenant, and they called me like, hey, listen, I can't pay you rent. And I'm like, okay, why? Right? And they're like, well, I just don't have the money. I go, but why? Like, did you lose your job? No. My transmission broke. But I had to fix a transmission, because if I don't fix a transmission, then I don't have a car. If I don't have a car, I can't go to work. If I don't go to work, I get fired. And I was like, okay, cool. I was like, so where did you get your transmission done? They're like, oh, at the mechanic shop down the street. I say, cool. They don't accept credit cards? And they were like, no, they actually said that they only accept cash. And I said, great, I accept credit cards as a landlord. So what's your credit card number? I'll charge you, and then I'll charge you the 4% merchant fee. And they were like, oh, you can accept credit cards for rent? I said, yeah, give me the number. They gave me the number. I charged them 4% rent, and I got my rent, right? Because I'm a business owner. And as a landlord, I go, okay, if I'm charging somebody $2,000 in rent, I don't expect to be a store and you come up to the cash register and you're buying a $2,000 computer. Imagine if you went to Best Buy and you said, hey, I'm buying a $2,000 computer, and you get to the register and they go, I only accept cash. And they're like, well, what do you mean? You don't accept credit card? No, we don't. They might put the computer back down and walk away. If you're a business owner, and being a landlord is a business owner, have other forms of payment and be resourceful. That person didn't even think about that, right? I had to do the thinking for them, which is fine, right? But business owners aren't like that, right? When they figure it out, they're like, well, let me go get a personal loan. Let me go do this. Let me run a promotion in my business and sell gift cards to raise cash to be able to float to do this, right? It's just a different clientele. So I love commercial real estate when it comes to investing in real estate. And I think every person that is in real estate should consider commercial, right? As an avenue for long-term wealth and building that portfolio rather than just residential.
Yeah. And also the entry point, if you analyze and compare the entry point of being a real estate agent, let's say you only have $5,000 in your bank account and you had to pick between being a real estate agent and becoming a real estate investor, it is much easier for you to make $100,000 if you are committed to real estate as an agent than it is for you to do that as a real estate investor.
Yes.
100%.
It's very, very much more difficult. if
Yeah, and
you're
there's
an
many,
investor.
and there's so many people that are out there like just make money with no money down, this, that, the other. It's like, yes, can you find situations where you can maybe sell or finance 100% of a deal or raise 100% of the money? Yes, there are situations, but the amount of effort that it's going to take you to find them and the money and marketing that you're going to have to put out. Like I sent out an EDDM to 20,000 people in Bloomfield, New Jersey recently.
What did that cost you?
It was 8,000 and change.
Yeah.
Guess how many calls you got?
I got 2 calls, and I'm not buying either of the houses, right? It just didn't work out. So I invested $8,000, and you know, people do save my postcard.
They do.
And they'll call me a year or 2 later, but like that's not a big deal to me. But now do that every month, and you're putting out $8,000 per month.
It's 96,000.
And you're getting calls, and like every once in a while you get a deal. It's like, well, listen, that's great for somebody that's set up financially okay, but like, what if you're not, right? So there's that piece that I think a lot of people don't talk about, right? You have a much higher chance of being able to build, you know, a steady income through real estate agency work, build that brand, and then be an investor when you're a little bit more financially capable. That's just my piece of advice. And I didn't start like that. I was a bartender. I would pay my bills as a bartender. I would make $200 to $300 per night bartending, and I would have like 5 or 6 shifts. And then as an investor, I got my real estate license strictly so I can get access to information that I didn't have, like MLS, right? There's information on the MLS that investors just don't have access to, right? So even today with Zillow and Realtor.com and all these websites, there's still more information on there that's valuable to me. And I had a job that paid all the bills. I can't imagine me starting my real estate investing business and just being like, this is how I'm gonna pay next month's rent and food. And like, I can't imagine that, right? So it's either, and in my opinion, this is really what I'm getting to, is if you're gonna have a job and be an investor, your job should be real estate. Immerse yourself, right? If you're gonna be an investor, well, let your job also be real estate. Be an agent, get your license, associate with a brokerage that is investor friendly, like us, right? And then start learning the market, because when you sit open houses, when you're showing buyers, you learn what they want. And when you buy a house, you're like, I'm gonna do what people want in this price point. Because you're learning, you're getting intimate knowledge of the business rather than a book that was, you know, authored 20 years ago telling you do this, do this, do that. Right? You can have access to resources and training and contracts and the laws and all the things that you should know anyway. It's not, there's no mandatory class, which I'm against. There's no mandatory class for you to be a real estate investor. I think there should be mandatory classes before you're allowed to buy a house as a first-time home buyer. I think there should be mandatory classes that you have to go through to be a first-time investor and landlord, specifically landlord, because a lot of people don't know how to treat their tenants, right? Or screen their tenants, and they violate all sorts of laws.
And they don't know the rules and the laws,
Right, I think it should be mandatory. So at Signature Realty Academy, that's exactly what we're doing, right? We're building these, you know, certificates that you can get for a first-time landlord, for a first-time investor, and then put that on your resume. But I think it's important for people to have that education. If you really, truly want to be immersed in real estate and make real estate the thing that you know like the back of your hand, how can you not get your license? How can you not be a realtor and at least be in the business of transacting for buyers and sellers? That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. But that doesn't mean that you should be representing yourself either. Because I don't know how you feel about this, but I do feel that if you are an investor,
he doesn't allow it.
You should not be investing, you should not be representing yourself, right? Because that is a conflict. But I have a couple more questions that came in from our audience. One is...
Well, there's a video question.
There's more video questions? Okay, let's go.
Hey, John and Michelle, it's Sally. So my question to you guys is, as a realtor investor who does have 4 flips going on right now, and I also have my realtor business to manage, what advice would you give for somebody like me who is a realtor and investor looking to scale and manage both businesses?
Great question.
That is a great question, and she's doing it both, and I
4
applaud
flips
her
at one time right now?
for-
Good.
Wow.
And Sally's what, 24, 25?
Yeah. she's crushing it.
No,
She joined us when she was 21, I think.
Yeah, she was.
And
yeah.
her family came from the investment space, right? So
Yeah.
she became a realtor because of her family were investors. So that's how she got her license.
I love that.
Mariano's
Her brother
investor,
brother's an
ex-man.
investor and a realtor with us, and her stepdad is as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, managing, I can just say, you know, you need to sometimes fire yourself and put other people that are going to be better than you into day-to-day stuff. On the investment side, I have no idea. It's for you guys because I am not an I don't know what that's like. But on the real estate side, I can tell you that, you know, when you have both going on, that's a lot. And I can only imagine the amount of hours that you're putting into it. But on the real estate side, I'd say if you know, figure out what pays you more. You know, I mean, are you a better investor or are you a better realtor? You're wearing both hats. I think it's going to get to the point where you are going to get burned out and something's just not going to, something's going to fall through the cracks.
Yeah, if you don't delegate.
There really are.
You gotta audit your
Delegation.
schedule and see what it is that's consuming you on both sides, right? On the real estate investment side and also as an agent. And you have to figure out what is it that you can delegate, you know, for $15, $10 an hour,
Right.
and then spend your time on higher level decisions,
Yeah.
things that are going to pay you a much higher premium. Like if you being in front, like for example, Sally being at a listing appointment, that's something that she needs to focus more time. Her managing a transaction, she can give that to, you know, our concierge service, 14/7, right? Same thing on the investment. If she is, and I know she is, if she's cold calling, now is the time, especially if you're in the middle of 4 transactions, 4 flips, that tells me she's doing well and she's obviously going to generate a lot of income, passive income from those 4 properties. Once she closes on one, go hire a cold caller or hire 2, right? She needs to start firing herself from multiple roles and figure out how she is spending most of her time on the high level stuff, right? Not on the stuff that's really consuming that she can delegate for $8 an hour, $10 an hour. She shouldn't be wearing multiple hats.
No, and I agree with
Your
you.
bandwidth runs out immediately.
100%. But I am also the firm believer that, and I said this to John, I said, you know, because John, you are very ambitious, you're very entrepreneurial, you want to do 30 things at once. And I always say, just narrow it down, just pick 1 or 2 things and just, you know, go all in on that and just stay laser focused. With me personally, when I was a real estate agent, I was working as a listing agent and I was working with buyers. And then I just kept, you know, juggling both of them. And it became to the point where I was like, if I'm going to really grow my business, I need to just do one job, do one role and do it really, really, really well. That is when my business doubled, tripled, is when I fired myself from all the things that...
well, that's when you started a team as well, and you put buyer's agents in place to
Right.
still continue to service those clients, of course, because you want to sell your listings that people call on. But now you have somebody else showing them the house, drawing up the contract, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
And, you know, we put admins in place and
Right.
we've delegated everything.
Right. Well, we build all the foundation and everything
Right.
else. But I do think that eventually, you know, you got to figure out what you love to do, what you're good at, what's
That's
going to
the
make
key.
you the most amount of money.
But that's the key, what
and
you
then
just said.
just go all in on that.
Write down all the things that you love to do and that are your highest and best use. And if they hit those 2 categories, I love to do it and it's within my, you know, zone, my workflow, and I love it, and you're good at it, that's good.
There
right?
was one time, guys, now I'm going back for a second. There was just one time.
Forget my point, folks.
One time in Bangkok.
No, John talks too much. Let me just go back for 1 second. I think this was 10 years ago or 12, and I have to say this because I just had an epiphany. 12 years ago, I actually did do my first and last renovation, and I did it all by myself. I found the deal. I financed the deal. Babe, you don't do that. None of you guys do that.
No, I did it.
Well, he doesn't do that.
I don't claim to
But he
do
does.
it.
He does it. He's the first person to say, I don't do none
No, he
of
doesn't
that.
do that. I found it. I funded it.
Soft hands.
I designed it.
And it's best not to be honest.
I did the whole thing, and it took the stress and aggravation that I had from that little 3-4 bedroom Cape Cod, the stress and the aggravation, and 6 months later, to be able to, you know,
It's a lot of moving parts.
and then I was like, wait a minute, how much did I make in this deal? I made more money as an agent in 1 month than I do by spending 6 months of my life renovating this house.
Yeah.
And that was my first and last day. Like, I'm done. Like, I'm never doing this again.
A lot of people don't realize that. A lot of people don't realize, like, you buy a house, you fix, and that's why we have the 24-hour renovation flip model, because I was at that same point. You know, I had lost, money on 2 big deals, but aside from that, like, the flips that I would do, I'm like, this shit is 4 months, 5 months, all this aggravation, contractors don't show up, the permits don't go through, they fail, the electrician's like, oh, I forgot to show up. You know, it's like, come on. And that's why we changed it to the 24-hour renovation model. But look, you could be good at anything if, like you said, you focus.
Focus, yeah.
Right? Like, some people they always think the grass is greener. The grass is green where you water it, right? So if you're going to water your realtor business and you're going to grow it, you know, you could do what 𝗵𝒆 has done, and you could grow your realtor business and really go all in on that. Now, not to say don't do any sort of investments, because I am a big believer in owning real estate and walking the talk, right? I think if you are an agent, but then you do investments and now you understand working with contractors, you have those resources, I think you're a more valuable realtor.
That's sure.
Right? I think that you can help people get their home ready for sale and sell it for top dollar because you have that experience, because you have those resources. And you can also do the math and the analysis for investors to help them find properties and so forth. So I think you do become a better realtor when you walk the talk.
Yeah. So back to Sally, you know, so the way I flip properties today are a lot different than the way I used to flip in the past. I was involved in every step, every stage, everything possible. And I've got it down to a science where I don't really spend no more than 4 or 5 hours, and I do 3 visits to the house. The first time I go to it, a site visit, and then when my contractor gives me the keys. I stopped project managing because I realized that I was spending way too much time going to Home Depot, 2 hours at Home Depot picking out. I'm not doing that anymore. I did it for probably about a good 20 transactions, 20 flips. And my dollar per hour went up skyrocketing when I said to my contractor now, Wilmer, I give him the key and I say, he knows already the process for every property. I literally do 1 more site visit and then he gives me the key when it's done. And that's it.
Can I have Wilmer's phone number?
You can. I give it to everybody. He's the best. And I stopped doing it, you know, doing being involved in every transaction, being involved in every, picking of the tile. I delegate all that stuff out, all of that stuff. In fact, most of my flips, I don't even.
Wait a minute. He picks a tile for you?
No.
Oh. Do you have a designer?
No. I usually use the same exact tile over and over. There's three templates. I tell him, go to Home Depot or go to Lowe's and pick one of them. They're all the same cost.
Because Mike does properties typically in a geographic area that all kind of fits the same criteria. If you're a flipper and you're doing $1 million house,
that's different.
And then you're doing a 350 house, then you can't
do that.
You have to create high-end templates and low-end templates.
But if I was flipping $1 million properties, I would just hire a designer, let the designer handle that.
Right. They're going to do it better anyway.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So at the end of the year, what I make, per transaction when I'm flipping is a lot, because when I look at how much time I spent on it, I almost feel guilty. Like right now, I'm going to make $100,000. I've spent maybe 2 hours in a transaction, and that's closing next week.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean,
so you have a science to it, and you've narrowed it down. But this took many years.
And to Sally, here's what I'm going to tell Sally, because this was a very big problem for me. I was the guy that said, I walked into a property, I'm like, I got to gut it, I got to do this so I can make an extra $30,000. Today, if I see a property and I know I can make 60 versus making $90,000 fixing it up, right? I'm going to choose to make 60 because I'm in and I'm out and I don't have to worry about it. Let someone else figure it out.
You sound like my husband.
Even if it's $40,000, even if it's 30, if I'm in and out, I'm okay with it.
Right.
Yeah.
The lower risk is worth it because you never know what's going to happen in the economy. Yeah. Macroeconomic issues, right? That's why we have the 24-hour renovation model, right? Yeah. Get in and get out. And I think it all comes down to, Sally, it's your team, right? Yeah. It's hire fast, fire fast, right? Yep. If you have people that aren't showing up, if you have people that are not following your systems, following your process, then you got to let them go quickly. Yeah. And you need to just keep the people that are good, because it's going to be really hard for you to scale if you're trying to scale. And it all comes down to, well, how much are you trying to scale? Mm-hmm. Like, I believe it's easier to scale an investing business than doing 3 or 4 flips. Why? Because you can hire a full-time project manager that's dedicated to that. You give them a percentage of the profits, and now they're in charge of that. But if you're only doing 4 deals a year, it's hard because they can't live off that. But if you're going to do 12 to 20 projects, you can have a project manager or a GC like Homer, right? That's going to just handle all this stuff for you. They're going to go to Home Depot. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. Right, exactly. So I think the best way to scale is to scale, right? It's doing more deals, setting a bigger goal, and then putting somebody in the hierarchy of your organization to say, what is eating up the most of my time? And we all know it's project management, right? It's, you know, you keep finding the deals the way that you're finding them, keep doing the marketing. That's your highest and best use. Go out to the properties, lock the deals up, and doing your realtor business, listings, etc., and focus on that. Because when you scale, there's more money, and, you know, you can pay somebody close to 6 figures out of the profit, and then it's worth it. So that's my advice to you.
More time making decisions, less time being an operator. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, it's the vision. You know, being able
and
to
be a realtor first.
Yeah.
Well, she is doing the real estate agent stuff, and you know what I like about the real estate agent stuff? You can make money in an up market, you can make money in a down market.
Well, that's
Right, and as an investor, it sucks if you're getting stuck with a few properties and you don't know where the market's headed. Or
And how many investors? I mean, you said it yourself at one point where you were just, you know, you had all these properties and the market shifted, and now you're stuck having to short sale them, or you were at one point even talking about going into foreclosure. I mean, how many of those investors have been, you know, hit by the market?
Many.
Right.
So many, right?
Many.
And some of them have never been able to recoup from that.
Yeah. And
So-
some forget about the market. The market's great. They'll buy it. They just buy wrong. They buy it too high, or they don't get the right financing, you know, or they underestimate the scope of work. They say it's 55,000. It's really 80,000. Right, and if your margin's 40,000, and all of a sudden now your margin's only 10 or 15,000, it's almost like you lost money. Like, oh, I was gonna make 40,000, now I'm only making $10,000. They almost look at it, oh, this is a $30,000 loss for me.
It is.
Because it really is.
It is,
right?
because you wouldn't have done the deal if it was a $10,000.
Don't chase deals either. And she's doing a good job. I mean, she said 4 transactions at once. I mean, she's already figured out how to scale. I mean, she's already doing something right, because if you're doing 4 flips at once, we can take, let's say there's 100 flippers in New Jersey. I guarantee you not many of them are doing 4 at once. That's just the reality. Right. I wasn't. I mean, the most I've ever done at once has been 3.
Yeah, but I realized at a certain point, it's not volume, it's quality.
Yes.
Right? It's actually, I'd rather do 1 deal at an $80,000 profit with a bigger margin than 2 at a $40,000 profit.
100%.
Right? When we were doing the flipping TV show on 24 Hour Flip, like, you know, we were under a production schedule, so I would do some more deals just to keep the guys busy. But the reality of it is, it's obviously better to do 6 $80,000 deals than 12 $40,000 deals. Well, that's 12 more properties that you need to manage, 12 more P&Ls. Yeah. It's like a pain in the ass. So just, me and you are the type of people now that I feel like we don't care if we get the deal or not.
I don't care.
Like, if I get it, I get it. And if I don't get it, I don't get it. Our biggest profit deal, we sold it to the head coach of the New York Jets. Yeah. That was our biggest profit deal. And when we bought it, I remember, you know, consulting with her because it's a high-end deal. And I went there and I made an offer on the property, and they were like, "Are you crazy?"
I remember that.
And I was like, "No, I'm not. That's what I'm willing to buy it for." And they're like, you know, they had it on auction with, what's that company called? I don't know.
Williams & Williams, wasn't it?
No, it was an auction. I can't remember what it is. And it was like a huge buyer's premium too. I had to pay 10% buyer's
Zome.com?
Concierge.
Whatever it is.
Concierge auction. So anyway, I went there, I made the offer. The guy got so mad at the offer that he took it off auction. He fired everybody. He's like, "I'm done. I'm not doing this." And then I got a call from a realtor. His cousin called me, said, "Hey, I know you buy houses. Are you interested in buying another house?" I said, "Sure. What's the address?" I was like, "Oh, I know the house. I made an offer." And she goes, "What are you willing to buy it for?" And then
You got a better deal.
No, I put in the same offer, but I didn't have to pay the buyer's premium.
You got a better deal.
And she goes, "No way, you know, go." And they countered me, and I was like, "No."
And I wanted to go up. I'm like, "Go up, go up."
She was like, "Go up." I was like, "No, because I don't care. I don't care if I get it or not." Anyway, we ended up getting it at the price that we, you know, originally put in an offer at, minus the buyer's premium. And it's the best deal that we've done. And your best negotiation power that you have is your ability to walk away.
Love that line.
Don't chase it.
It's your ability to walk away. Yeah. So when you figure out the marketing piece, like you said, if you figure out the marketing piece and you have a lot of opportunity in front of you and you're making your offers the way that they're going to economically make sense for you, that's what's going to give you the ability to make the best decisions for your business, take the lowest amount of risk, and be the happiest.
Yeah. The one that I'm talking about right now, the one that we're closing next week that we're making over 100,000, I was going to walk away with it because I don't like buying 3 units because of DCA rules and regulations. Newark. I don't like buying it in Newark. I'm from Newark. I just don't want to buy it there, you know, and I was going to walk away. And then the deal just made a lot of sense, you know, in terms of the risk. And I was like, you know what, let's just go through with it, right? So you're right. When you have that mindset where it's like, great if I get it, great if I don't, right? If you don't chase deals, and I see a lot of people chasing deals into the fire, and all of a sudden they get burned.
Yeah, don't try to make it a deal.
They try to convince themselves that, oh, well, if I do some of the work now, well, and I used to do the same thing. I was like, oh, well, if I do the sheetrock and I outsource this, and maybe I'll do the tile in the bathroom, maybe I make sense of it, I'll buy it, you know? And then before you know it, you know, you're getting frustrated because you're doing all this work and you got other stuff going on in your life, and it just doesn't make sense anymore for you. Like, oh my God, I should have never bought the deal.
Right. And every day costs you money.
Yeah.
So if you're in there doing the work yourself, forget it.
But that's one thing that being a real estate agent, that's where it's very different because, you know, it's not like, oh, I'll walk away from the listing, maybe they'll call me back, right? You know, you're not
I
walking
get it,
away.
but you're being hired. You have to close and you
Yeah,
have to land the deal.
Right,
but it's different. You're just signing a contract and then doing the marketing after the fact.
Right, but it's different because most real estate agents, they go in and they try to convince the seller, you know, to sign with them. Most people don't have that strategy. Like an investor, like, oh, if it's not a good deal for me, then I'm just going to walk away. Most agents don't. They make it a good deal. They even lower their commission, I've seen substantially, just to get a signature. So that's very different.
Yeah, that's not what we're talking about, though. I mean, it's a different strategy for sure, but
we're talking about being an investor versus
I know,
being a
but if you're
realtor.
going to be I get it, but if you're an investor and you're only shooting for $100,000 profit deals, to make $1 million, you only need 10.
Right.
Right? As an agent, to make $1 million, you need a lot.
Right. Well, no. So going back to what you had said, you said I'd rather do 4 deals at, you know, 1 deal at 80,000 versus
Right.
2 deal at 40. If you're a real estate agent, if you're a luxury real estate agent,
Right.
what does that mean? That
Right,
means
you
for
could do
every
50 at 20 grand
that is
commissions.
correct. It's a numbers game. Less
Right.
is more sometimes, right?
Right.
So
No, 100%. 100%.
I have other questions here. So should we go over those, or no? We don't need
No,
to.
I think we have enough time. And look, I do want to share with you guys in 2024. You know, it's been a few years that I've been putting this together. For those of you that are interested, at Signature Realty Academy, we're putting together a program both for agents and investors. For people that are really serious about being an agent investor, we're doing an affordable coaching program and a training program with a course that walks you through everything from learning how to buy properties at sheriff sales and auctions and getting those deals, to what marketing to do, to what contracts to use as an investor, to negotiating that deal and presenting your terms, to raising private capital and giving you resources there, and also how to build your construction team, how to set up your project management, you know, person and compensate them without having to pay them a salary, and then ultimately how to sell it. And if you're an agent, obviously there's a lot of opportunity for you in there as well, because we have agent topics and training. So if that's something that you are interested in, just DM me the word investor, and I will put you on the list that when we do launch that, I will notify you, and then you guys could see if it's a good fit for you.
Yeah,
a
that's
lot
amazing.
of this happening at Signature Realty.
A lot.
Lots. 2024.
We're going all in, baby.
What's our motto? Bet on Signature and go all in.
Bet on Signature.
Bet on Signature,
and
go all in.
That's it.
All
I
right.
can see 2024. I'm gonna have to hold my eyes up. Yeah, I got enough sleep. I did.
Well, thank you guys for watching. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and we'll see you on the next one.